Top Tree Arcstrider Way of the Warrior used to be one of my all-time favorite classes to play, especially in year 1, but since the Forsaken changes, which were massive, and the middle tree came out, and then the bottom tree was buffed, this isn't really the play anymore in PvP. It's not exactly the most effective class, but today I'm going to be talking about a build that definitely breathes life into this subclass and makes it pretty lethal and a lot of fun to play again. So the goals of this build is going to be to double down on your lethality with Combination Blow, utilizing Thunder Coil, the infamous seasonal mod, and maximizing on survivability and evasiveness with Assassin's Cowl. We're going to want to be utilizing high DPS weapons like a hand cannon or, again, some sort of high DPS so we can enable quick melee cleanup. So like a hand cannon headshot and a melee will be a kill, and activate our first stack, of course, of Combination Blow for 20 seconds, and then after that we're going to gain Invis because of Assassin's Cowl, and immediate health regen, of course, not only from Combination Blow, but a chunk of health from Assassin's Cowl, and of course the regen from that as well. To keep our combo blow chain going, we're going to want to be using our Gambler's Dodge near an enemy to regain our melee charge, and then activate our further lunge as well. So then we repeat, get a kill, gain higher stacks of Combination Blow, and then of course with this, and while doing this, Thunder Coil increases our melee damage, so it's base 125 damage when we have Combination Blow ready, 154 damage for 1 stack, 189 damage for 2 stacks, and 231 damage for 3 stacks. And this actually results in a one-hit KO, one-hit knockout kill, with 2 stacks for whatever reason. I know it says 189, but with 2 stacks against 3 resilience and lower, this will be a one-hit knockout. And then of course for resilience levels higher than that, so 4 and up, we'll need 3 stacks to get that one-hit kill. So for all my fellow hunters that are absolutely tired of being one-hit killed or one-punched by Thunder Coil Titans with Bottom Tree Striker, well, now we have our own kind of version of that as well. It does take a little longer, a little bit more effort to wind up, but I think it's more rewarding because of the evasiveness we have to take advantage of, and Assassin's Cowl giving us that Invis. So again, we also want to use Assassin's Cowl Invis to sneak up and pick up those easy melee kills. Maybe that means getting out of an engagement and juking someone out. Maybe that means sneaking up on someone. But you have to remember, if you crouch out of camos, so if you are crouching by the time your Invis is up, you will still not be appearing on radar for about 15 seconds so long as you are crouching. So this is a really good way, especially since your timer on Combination Blow is about 20 seconds. It's a really good way to kind of sneak up on people and just pick up those easy stacks of Combination Blow. So I did mention that I think that Top Tree Way of the Warrior has definitely been power crept, or is just not as good as the bottom tree now, at least for PvP. I mean specifically PvP, and a lot of this is because of the survivability of the super. The bottom tree gets that damage resistance from dodging in the super, which gives it a lot more survivability, and in comparison it's much easier to shut down a Top Tree Way of the Warrior super. But that's why we have Assassin's Cowl here, because Assassin's Cowl works in supers, so we get that kind of survivability. Of course, it's not going to be the same as bottom tree, or if you were using Assassin's Cowl with bottom tree, but it gives us a bit more survivability, so the super isn't just quite as weak or easy to shut down. And so with Assassin's Cowl, it's going to allow us on every super kill to gain health, a chunk of health back, and regen, and go invisible. Of course, I believe that also takes us off the radar, which is pretty interesting. Again, giving a whole different kind of dimension to Arcstrider. And of course, just making up for that survivability that we need. So let's talk about the complete build, going a little bit more in depth. Of course, our subclass, we're using Arcstrider Way of the Warrior, focusing on utilizing that Combination Blow as much as possible to be super lethal, going for those one hits ultimately with our melee. In terms of weapons, honestly, you have a lot of choices. You just want to prioritize high DPS primary weapons. Hand cannons are the most ideal because you're able to headshot and melee kill with even just a 150 RPM hand cannon. And a lot of people like the 150 RPM hand cannons, so I assume that is going to be the popular choice. That's what I used. I've been really on a Jack Queen King kick. I've really liked that hand cannon a lot, so I've been using that with this build, and just a headshot plus a melee for our first stack. So actually without any stacks of Combination Blow will give us the kill and initiate our first stack, where afterwards I believe you can get a body shot and a melee against certain resiliences to go for that kill as well. So again, lots of choice. Just make sure it's a high DPS weapon so you can clean up with a melee very easily. Your special weapon, again, lots of preference, lots of choice here. Depends on whether you prefer sniping or shotgunning though. The loadout could be effective for sniping, I think, as combination blow does give you a degree of close range lethality that could protect you against shotgunners. But this is also great for cleaning up shotgun kills if you are a shotgunner that don't quite one-shot a target. For the sake of this build though, and just because of my personal preference, I'll be attempting to utilize combination blow as frequently and consistently as possible, which means I'll be using a slug shotgun for a body shot and melee cleanup, and of course the option for long range shoddy headshots should I need them. So as far as our armor and stats goes, on my build I use 4 mobility, 5 resilience, 9 recovery, 3 discipline, 3 intellect, and 5 strength. I prioritize 5 resilience because this counters Thorn, not allowing Thorn to 2-head or 1-body you with the burnout, or 2-tap you with the burnout with their perk. And this also punishes hand cannon 3-tap range where they experience damage drop off, so there might be some scenarios where I can win a gunfight simply because I've punished their 3-tap range further than they've punished mine because of resilience levels. I use 9 recovery for, of course, survivability and just maximum uptime in engagements. I could get 10 recovery, and I'll talk about this in a second, but I've sacrificed that for an extra dodge cooldown, which I think is a little bit better with this build. I go for 3 intellect, and I need to use an intellect mod to do so because there's a 43-second difference in super regen between tier 2 and tier 3, which I think is a pretty considerable difference, so I want to be hitting 3. I use 5 strength for just a bit more melee uptime. If we happen to miss our combination blow chain, I want to be getting that melee back ASAP. I know we have our dodge to do that as well, but again, just a little bit more of a safety net. And then I use 2 class ability mods with Paragon mods for a 14-second dodge cooldown roughly. To go a bit more in depth with the armor, so again on my helmet I use Assassin's Cowl. This has an intellect mod on it and precision weapon targeting. I use an intellect mod to reach that tier 3 intellect with my build at least, and the intellect mod though can be substituted for a class ability mod or Paragon mod for more frequent dodges of course. And I also use precision targeting because this gives a little bit more aim assist for both my slug and my hand cannon. On my arms, I have a Paragon mod, again, for more frequent dodges, and Enhanced Shotgun Loader. The Paragon mod, again, can be swapped for a Recovery mod if you like tier 10 Recovery instead of, dodge cooldown, so you'll get a slower dodge cooldown for more recovery. It's up to you, and in terms of the loader, you can use Enhanced Hand Cannon Loader if you want. Whatever you like, it's really up to you. On my chest piece, I use a Resilience mod with Large Arms Unflinching and Hand Cannon Unflinching. So essentially, Resilience mod to get my build to 5 Resilience, and then I also use Unflinching perks that will affect both of my weapons. Best part of Armor 2.0 is getting Unflinching on both your weapons, so I always do this. On my boots, I have a Recovery mod and Shotgun Scavenger as well as Traction. Of course, Shotgun Scavenger to get more ammo for each special brick because I'm using a slug shotgun. Traction for me is a preferred perk because I play on controller and prefer a tighter turn radius. But more importantly, I think, for everyone, even MK players, it provides an invisible boost, of course, to mobility that isn't reflected in the stat breakdown. So 5 of it is visible for the stat breakdown, but 10 of it is not. So I'm actually getting tier 5 mobility, I believe, with my build, if I'm not mistaken, and then plus the lightweight bonus of my hand cannon, which is Jack, Queen, King. So that actually gives me tier 6 or 7 mobility, and with my stat splits of 9 recovery and 5 resilience, I think that's pretty good. And finally, on our class item, we have a Paragon mod, again, just maximizing on that dodge cooldown, making sure it's as short as possible so we can dodge all the time for our increased melee lunge, and of course retrieving our melee cooldown, and of course Thunder Coil, again the infamous season mod that will give us increased melee damage and essentially make the build work. Now I know there's some people that are probably going to say, well, you can use arc battery for this as well, and this is very interesting because I think arc battery and Thunder Coil with this class have 2 very different dynamics. On one hand, arc battery allows you to kind of use your dodge as a way to tank, close the gap, and then finish off with that melee, and it's a lot safer. Of course, I think it does give you a lot more survivability when you're going for these melees, and just it's safer and maybe more consistent, but it lacks potential, and I think that this class needs a little bit more potential to be worth playing. The damage increase on the melees just isn't enough in my opinion if we're not going to be one-hitting at some point. In the Crucible right now, we have a lot of special weapons that can one-hit in close range. We got shotguns, of course, and then we have fusions. And between those two, is it really worth going for stacks of increased melee damage if at no point we're not going to be one-hitting? I understand the consistency and the power of being able to just tank shots and safely close the gap into your melee range with that extended melee and getting those stacks of combination blow. However, again, I just don't think it amounts to anything because the increased melee damage just isn't enough in my opinion, whereas we can work towards getting a 2-stack or a 3-stack with Thunder Coil and potentially being really evasive, dodging, getting camo frequently, and being able to just dismantle people and teams in one melee. I think that the peak potential is just much higher, and as a result, it's better to go with Thunder Coil. Anyways, everyone, that is my Hunter Arcstrider Way of the Warrior Invis One Punch Man build. I don't know what I'm going to call that. I don't know if that's the final name, but I'm going with it for now. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoyed the build. If you'd like to see any sort of other builds or suggestions for builds on this channel, you can let me know in the comments, but please tell me what you think of it. Try it out, see if it's fun. To me, this really gave life to Way of the Warrior, and I really enjoyed playing it. It was not super cheesy because I really had to work towards building up to my really lethal point at ×2 or ×3 stacks, but once I was there, I was able to just roll through teams, and it was really, really fun. So hope you guys enjoyed it as well. If you guys like to see more content like this, you can check me out on Twitch. Like I said, I've been live streaming a lot lately, and I'm really close to 20k followers, so any of your support is greatly appreciated. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. Again, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.
I have to put up with a lot in this job, Guardian. You make it all worth it.